Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. The last two episodes was about experimenting with teaching techniques. But our community has a more fundamental problem than experimentation. Now let us look at, first of all, the number of students who are struggling. And I'm going to take mathematics because mathematics is the subject all of us agree that we are underperforming in. So if you look at the chart, you will find that it shows that about 60% of Malay Muslim students pass standard maths at PSLE. Now, this does not include those who are in the foundation program, right? That's standard maths. You have foundation maths, and ask any teacher who the bulk of the students are. It is from our community. So our community is overrepresented in the foundation program. We can assume that those in the foundation program are not able to handle the standard maths program. That's why they are in the foundation program. Let's assume that 50% out of the whole cohort of students who are Malay Muslims or who are Muslims, only 50% can pass standard maths. The Singapore mathematics that we have been exporting to the whole world, that the world is talking greatly about, the praising Singapore about, our community, only 1 out of 2 students can pass standard maths, Singapore maths. That is a real problem, right? But what numbers are we talking about? 50% of how many students? That is the question. Then you know how many tutors are required. Now, the figure for 2024 live births is about 33,703 babies. According to my calculation, and I asked AI for some help, we can safely assume that out of the 30,000 or 33,000 of births every year, roughly about 4,000 babies are Malay Muslims. Malays, Muslims, or Malay Muslims. 4,000. So at some point in time, 4,000 children, Insha Allah, will be going into the primary 1 system, right? So let's assume also at primary 2 there's 4,000, primary 3 there's 4,000, and let's take the first 10 years of education, primary 1 to primary 6, sec 1 to sec 4 or sec 5, then it will be 11 years, but let's assume it's 10 years. So let's assume now there's 40,000 students in the first 10 years of schooling who are in need of tuition. And from the statistics you have seen at PSLE, 50% will fail standard maths. That means out of the 40,000, 20,000 will fail mathematics. That means on a yearly basis, the Muslim educators need to service 20,000 students. So how many tutors must you have? Let's assume that one tutor can service 20 students. Let's assume that. We need a minimum of 1,000 tutors to service the failing math students. Now, I have not included the other subjects like science, like English, like Malay. And even Malay, we know our grip on the Malay language is slipping away. It's slipping away. Our children are not confident to communicate in Malay anymore. So I'm going to put a ballpark figure of 2,500 to 3,000 tutors required on an annual basis to service for the entire year. To service what? To teach them, to tutor them. Now that would be quite a realistic figure, I believe. The Muslim community requires 2,500 to 3,000 tutors. So often hear of organizations, Muslim and non-Muslims, they are in need of good tutors, of experienced tutors, of qualified tutors, of tutors with that social mission. Our community needs to solve this problem immediately. We can solve this problem in a short span of time if we break down the underachievement issue into smaller parts, one of the issues is a shortage of tutors. But what I'm so amazed is we have social organizations who have been dedicated to solve this problem for years, for decades, and yet this is still a problem. So where can we find these tutors? So there are 5 groups of adults that can fit into the tutor profile. Number 1 would be tutors themselves, like myself. But tutors can come in 2 forms: the full-time tutor and also the part-time or freelance tutor. The other one would be a parent of a child who is of school-going age. They function as tutors too, right? They can teach their own children. That's also another form of tutor. And then you have the 3 other tuition-related careers. For example, you have the teachers, the MOE teachers, the madrasah teachers. They too can help in tutoring, maybe part-time, not full-time, part-time. You have also the trainers. They are those who are doing training. And finally, the volunteers. So there are 5 groups of adults who must be cultivated, must be communicated with to help cause a dent in this underachievement issue. The 5 are full-time tutors, parents of school-going age, teachers, MOE or madrasah, or even private schools, trainers, they might be training people in other fields, not related or related, and volunteers. So we need to have that standing army, if you like, who's able to serve the community. They need training. And most of all, I think this is Singapore, right? And things are expensive here in Singapore. We cannot be expecting those who service our students in our community to do it for free, because they need to survive. You know, our social organizations especially, we need to think of a way to sustain full-time and part-time tutors. If we think this is not our problem, the issue of underachievement will return to us like a boomerang, because the people who can solve this issue are the adults, Muslim or non-Muslim, from these 5 groups. Who do you think would be able to convert from a parent to a tutor? Are parents of school-going age. If they have undergone some training and they have the practice of teaching their children, they would be a good candidate as a full-time tutor or part-time tutor. So we need to court this group. We need to communicate with this group. We need to be in touch. And most of all, we must make it economically viable for tutors to survive and excel in our community. Now, if you say this is not a problem, as I said, the problem will come back to us as a boomerang, because the very people who can solve the problem, if they are not supported, they will seek other forms of employment. And once they seek alternative forms of employment, the focus is taken away. And sometimes they just don't have time. Maybe we must provide them with training, maybe. But I think what we need to provide them more is with assignments. Now, what excuse is there for our social organizations who try to get companies to run the tuition program when you can have your own base of tutors, but you got to pay them market rate? If you are you're paying a small amount and they can't make ends meet, the problem still persists, because they need to find other means of employment to solve their daily needs. So we need to creatively find solutions for them. In fact, not only do we need to find a big enough number of tutors, We need to court them, we need to manage them, we need to stay in touch with them, we need to be with them throughout the years. Number one. Number two, we need to pay them market rate. We need to pay them so that they don't need to seek alternative means of employment. And thirdly, you know, I've been a tutor for many years, for a period of time, even a full-time tutor. And when we reach the holidays, although we love holidays, we get a break from our tuition programs, we don't have any income during those months. So two ways of doing it: try to make more in the earlier months so that you have some buffer to live on, to sustain on during the lull months, or organizations and even businesses can creatively craft programs during the holidays to help support such tutors. And the students need it. Look, the students who have been failing maths, imagine they only have 9 months of tuition. And 3 months, what do they do? They forget. So maybe we need to have that continuity. We need to support the tutors 12 months in a year, so that money is not an issue, because in Singapore, money is an issue. The cost of living is high. In fact, some of the effective tutors, socially driven tutors, mission-centric tutors, they will be running a June 2026 crash course for O-level E-Maths, O-level additional maths, for PSLE maths, for PSLE science, and PSLE English. I'm one of the tutors. I'm teaching PSLE math. 20 sessions in June. Do look at the poster that's attached to the YouTube video. You can message us for more information. And if you have friends who may need tuition during the holidays, who are underperforming, do share this message with them. And we do hope that our community will start to think of this issue of underachievement strategically. We need to maintain, as I said, 2,500 to 3,000 tutors on an annual basis to solve this problem. And I pray to God, some of the social organizations and some of the businesses will start thinking of this issue. Until the next time, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.